Let's talk about this fascinating phenomenon known as the halo effect. It's like this mental trick our brain plays on us, where we let our first impressions of someone cloud our judgment. When we demystify the halo effect, we'll see how it affects our perceptions of people and why it's essential to be mindful of it. The halo effect, sometimes referred to as the halo error, is the tendency for positive impressions of a person, company, country, brand, or product in one area to positively or negatively influence one's opinions or feelings in other areas. The halo effect is a cognitive bias which can possibly prevent someone from accepting a person, a product, or a brand based on the idea of an unfounded belief on what is good or bad. So picture this. You meet someone and they come across as incredibly charming or attractive. Suddenly, you find yourself thinking they must be brilliant, kind, and trustworthy in every way, even if you barely know them. If someone is well dressed and charming, you may take on the belief that they are reliable and trustworthy, when actually the opposite could be true. That is the halo effect in action. The halo effect is when our opinions about a person's positive traits spill over into how we see everything else about them. You might think, oh, they're great in this one area, so they must be amazing overall. It can really stop us from seeing people or things as they really are. This quirky shortcut that the brain does shows up everywhere, in relationships, job interviews, and even in advertising. To become extraordinary, to level up, to become a great critical thinker, a great BS detector, one must avoid falling into the trap of the halo effect. And I've got my own personal example to illustrate this. I almost got involved in a cryptocurrency scam that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme, which is a fraudulent scheme. And the person that got me on the phone had a very nice speaking voice. He presented as incredibly intelligent. He had a great vocab. He sounded very educated. He was very chatty and conversational and had exceptional rapport building skills. I spent a total of 20 minutes speaking to him, believing he was representing a legitimate company. And he showed me the company online. He got me to log on and check it out. Luckily, by the end of that conversation, he asked for information and I worked out I was being deceived. I later found out that company was bankrupt and a lot of people had been scammed. Big time. If someone is personable with you, you believe possibly that they're friendly and trustworthy when in fact they're using that information against you to take your money. Some people lose their whole life savings by assuming all people are good people. Then there is the world of romance. When you're smitten with someone, it's like you've put on these rose-colored glasses. This initial infatuation is the halo effect at its strongest. Consider the allure of a new romance. When infatuated, we often see our partner as an embodiment of perfection. During the honeymoon phase, the halo effect makes partners seem more angelic than they actually are. Every little quirk becomes adorable, and their minor transgressions are overlooked. However, sometimes they have major transgressions that you overlook. One day you may wake up and find that you've spent a long time with one person who's actually quite toxic and you did not see the red flags. You attributed to them a lot of very good qualities that they actually didn't have. You may have believed that they loved you the same or they were similar to you in many ways when actually you had just projected that onto them. So ultimately, the halo effect can lead down a path of misjudgment. This can affect or veil potential issues, leading us to misread compatibility or ignore subtle red flags. it can lead to major disappointments down the road. And sometimes you can just have these unrealistic expectations and put your romantic interest on a pedestal and think they're perfect in every way, putting pressure on both of you to live up to this idealized image. It can also lead to hasty commitments. The halo effect can make you feel like you've found your perfect match, leading to quick and intense feelings of attachment. You might rush into commitments or decisions without fully considering the long-term compatibility. The halo effect really masks your lack of objectivity and clouds your judgment. It might prevent you from making rational assessments of a person's character, compatibility, and suitability as a partner. When it comes to work or contracts, you may miss the fine detail because you have trust in the process and don't check your facts. You may take that job because it pays well and it was offered to you, but then find out a few months later the job is very stressful, you're overworked, and the conditions are terrible. In personal relationships, you may find that you're over-forgiving and over-tolerant, accepting behaviors that you shouldn't, when really these behaviors you should be concerned about. So, how do we level up? How do we become extraordinary? How do we become a really good judge of character? What do we need to do to avoid casting the halo effect onto others? How do we avoid chasing shiny objects and realizing down the track they're not actually that shiny after all? At the end of the day, it's all about saving time and money. When you save time and money, you ultimately get where you want to go faster. So let's look at this in detail. Firstly, awareness. Recognizing the halo effect actually exists and can influence your judgment. Being aware of the biases is the first step of mitigating the impact. Separate traits. When evaluating someone, consciously separate different traits and characteristics. Avoid letting a person's excellence in one area overly influence your perception of them in other areas. Then you need to gather information. Make decisions based on a broad set of information rather than just a standout quality. Ask questions and gather data to form a more comprehensive opinion. Be a critical thinker. Practice critical thinking and skepticism. Challenge your assumptions and preconceived notions when forming judgments. You want to question your impressions. If you find yourself making judgments based on a single positive trait, question whether that trait is truly relevant to the situation at hand. You want to consider multiple perspectives. Seek input from others to gain a more well-rounded view of a person or situation. This can help counteract the influence of the halo effect. You want to delay judgment. Give yourself time to think and reflect before making judgments or decisions. This can prevent snap decisions being based on initial impressions. And reflect on your decisions. Periodically review your judgments and decisions to assess whether the halo effect or other biases may have influenced them. You want to emphasize objectivity. Make an effort to be as objective as possible in your assessments, relying on data, other people's opinions, and evidence rather than assumptions. And lastly, self-reflection. Reflect on your own biases and work on your personal growth continuously. Understanding your own biases can help you to avoid projecting those onto others. When making a big decision, I always like to get 3 opinions, 3 perceptions, 3 points of view. And you want to get this information from professionals if possible, or just people that know their stuff, people that you can rely on. Remember that everyone is susceptible to cognitive biases, including the halo effect, By consciously working to mitigate the influence of the bias, you can make more accurate and fair judgments about people and situations. So there we have it. We do not want to be gullible. We want to be in our power and make decisions based on information that is accurate and not assumptions. Do not guess. Do not assume that that person or that thing is what it is. Be curious, inquire, reflect, ask for guidance, and you'll perceive much more accurately.
Thank you for listening. If you found value in today's episode, hitting the like or subscribe buttons or by leaving a comment is a great way to support our channel. For more info on our evidence-informed coaching programs and coaching certifications, go to clarity4.com and sign up for our newsletter.